When is the right time to harvest vegetables out of your vegetable garden? Well, that's the big question, and we're going to find out today. I'm Katrina with Homegrown Florida, and I put out a request on social media and YouTube asking you guys all your questions about gardening. And you came back with a ton, specifically around vegetable varieties as well as like when to harvest those vegetables. So we're going to talk about that. So we're going to start with seeds and varieties first. So the first question on seeds came from Donna, where to buy plants or seeds locally. So when it comes to seeds, my favorite seed providers that are actually in Florida is the Urban Harvest and flgardening.com. Jera's Garden or Jera's Garden, I can never know how to pronounce her name, Jerra, also supplies seeds. I have not actually purchased any from her, but it looks like a pretty good selection. There's also, retailers with eBay and Etsy and stuff like that that you can get them that they produce their seeds here in Florida. As far as plants, where I live, there is like one nursery that's pretty good, but there's not a lot of nurseries around me. So unfortunately, my only option is like Home Depot and Lowe's and that one nursery. If you're looking for native plants, things that are native to Florida, go to Florida Native Plant Society, and they have actual place where you can look up native nurseries in your area. If you live in like the central west coast of Florida, I know Little Red Dragon's really good, as well as Wilcox. I love Wilcox. So really what you're going to want to do, research nurseries in your area. I'd have to drive very far to get seedlings. So that's why most of my plants I start from seed, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to have plants. I know I have a lot of viewers in other states. So some other places that I like to get seeds from would be M.I. Gardner, Baker Creek, Southern Exposure, and Johnny Seeds. If I'm looking for hybrids, Johnny Seeds is like where it's at. If I'm looking for heirlooms in areas that can handle southern climates or warm climates, even desert climates, I go with the other three. D. Fuentes asked, do you order seeds by season and save your own seeds? So I do save a lot of my own seeds. I pretty much save all of my own lettuce seeds. I save a lot of my own like rare seeds, like if I'm growing roselle, cranberry hibiscus, those kinds of things are a little harder to find. I grow a lot of my own beet seeds, onion seeds, tomatoes, cucumbers, squashes, all of those. And I really encourage you that if you haven't gotten into seed saving, it is a tremendous way to regrow something if you like it. So if you find a variety that you really, really like I am totally addicted to the Trombocino squash. I let I let the fruit go complete ripe, so it turned like an orange, and then I saved the seeds from that. And I will now be able to regrow that for forever. And I really love that about saving seeds. But if you're just wanting to try out new varieties, I do buy mine by season, but I focus on 2 seasons. I focus on fall, and then I focus on summer. Those are the 2 seasons that I usually will buy seeds. So at the beginning of fall, I'm buying all my warm season crops as well as my cool season crops, my potatoes, my garlic, and my onions as well, because those don't necessarily always come in seeds. Sometimes those are starts or seed potatoes or seed garlic. And then right before summer, probably around the March or April timeframe, I buy some of the stuff that is going to be special for summer. Summer is tough down here, so there's very unique things that you can grow during summer. So I'm always trying out new things. Those seeds are typically harder to find, but I find if you're buying them in March or April, when most of the country is opened to gardening, you're going to see the highest population of availability of seeds during that time frame. Fall seeds, you're going to find that it's a little harder to find normal things because nobody's really buying seeds in fall, but you do get like a lot of good discounts by buying your seeds in fall. And then Kelly asked, how do I organize my seeds and my preparation, right? So my planning and my seeds. So first up, if you haven't gotten my ebook, my gardening ebook, I'll put the link down in the description. It is 100% completely free. You just put in your email address and I will send you a link to a PDF. And you can download that PDF and you can use that garden planner. That is the best way that I have found that I organize my garden and put a plan together. As far as organizing my seeds, I like using the photo books. So it's a case. It's like a plastic case. It's down in my Amazon store, but it's a plastic case that holds photos. It has little trays that hold the photos. But instead of photos, you put seed packets in it. And so I usually have 2, mainly because I have a ridiculous seed obsession. But one of them is all of like my regular vegetables. And then the other one is going to be things like flowers, herbs, some of my rare stuff that ends up in the second one. Now we're going to move on to varieties, like some of my favorite varieties. Deb wanted to know my favorite kale and spinach varieties and what season they grow in. My favorite kale is now this new kale I've been growing, which is Prism. It's really like fluffy leaf. I really like that. But most people typically enjoy the lacinato or the red Russian kale here. It grows really well. You plant it during our winter season, but it will grow all the way into summer. And a lot of people have found that they can grow that plant year over year. It like never actually dies. If you don't get, you know, a bad enough frost, it will live on and become like this little short tree. It's really funny looking. There was one that I grew this year that was good. Kamasutra, I'll put it right here. But that one was good. It produced, but it flowered pretty quickly as well. And Bloomingdale's and any other spinach I've tried has just flowered so quickly. So I have not really found a spinach that I really like, honestly. Rick asked what my favorite slicing tomato variety is. I particularly like, there's three. There's Neptune, Homestead 24, I believe it is, and then Blvd. Those three tomatoes are like good slicing tomatoes. They're not beefsteaks. They're like the size of like a vine ripe tomato that you find in the grocery store. It's like that size. I like those the best. They grow best down here. They handle the pests. They handle the frequent rains and the diseases and things like that really, really well. So that's my favorite tomato variety. Anna asked cucumbers and squashes. So cucumbers, I have found that you are going to have better luck with cucumbers that are vining. If you get a bush cucumber like Space Master, they do grow, and if you hit just the perfect season, you will get cucumbers. But a vining variety that grows upwards is going to have better air circulation, because those plants are just known for disease. Like they are just going to get a disease no matter what you do. If you can grow them upwards, they're going to get good airflow. It's going to reduce that. I do the Boston pickling. I like Sweet Success. If you've had trouble with pollination, Sweet Success, Diva. And then there is a set of cucumbers that are like Asian variety cucumbers. I haven't tried them, but I'm planning on trying them this summer, that I have heard people absolutely love. And hopefully I will test those out and let you know this summer if those work out. Squash wise, I love any kind of squash that is from the machata variety. So there's different types of squash. So you have like a butternut squash or a acorn squash or whatever, but those all fall under different, I don't know if they're called plant types, varieties, families, something like that. But there's like machata, pepo, Maximo, I believe, are the three types. I think there's a fourth one now. So machatas are very resistant to squash vine borers. They handle the heat better, and they also have a better disease resistance, I prefer. But they're odd, right? The machata trombocino squash is a very odd looking squash. It is not like something you would see in the grocery store. Or, you know, the Seminole pumpkin is a machata variety. That one grows really well here during the summer. That doesn't look like your regular butternut squash, but it kind of tastes like a butternut squash. So if you can get over the fact that they're going to look weird or a little bit different, those are going to be your best bet. Homemade Fine asked what my favorite lettuce varieties are. No question about it. My absolute favorite lettuce variety is Salanova. They have like 5 different kinds. I like the green butter, and then I think it's green ice. But really any of the Salanovas, absolutely any Salanova that you buy is going to be number one. I've also had good luck with Muir, M-U-I-R, and then Heatwave lettuce. Those have all done really well. But once again, they only do well during our winter. Lettuce does not grow well here during the summer at all. Garden Glow Up asked me, what's my favorite vegetable to grow? That's a hard one, right? As a gardener, you absolutely love all your plants. My favorite vegetable to grow, because I like to eat it, is going to be broccoli. And I like the Arcadia broccoli, as well as now I've got the Purple of Sicily, and I'm finishing up a Romanesco, which is like a really late season broccoli. That one has, all of that has been great. I'm actually really surprised that the Romanesca grew well here. That's my favorite one to eat. But my favorite one to grow, just for the fun of growing it, is winter squash. Above everything else, I love to grow winter squashes. I don't know why. I think it's because you get like this huge piece of edible food. You know, when you take a Trombocino squash off, it's like 5 to 8 pounds. When you take a Seminole pumpkin, you can get it anywhere from a pound to like 5 pounds. These are big pieces of fruit. They look so cool when they're growing. They're beautiful, but they are a very difficult plant because of the diseases and the pests. So I have a few different favorites. Food Forest Florida asks, what's the easiest vegetable to grow in Florida? I would say the easiest vegetables to grow in Florida is going to be number one, sweet potatoes. During the summer, they just grow so well, and I don't ever have to do anything to them, and they produce. And then the second one, I would say probably not as easy as sweet potatoes, but they do grow really well here in Florida, is pretty much any hot pepper. They love the heat, they love the sun, and I think those are probably the easiest ones to grow. Lee Jason, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, wanted to know what is something that I grow that is in season with a high protein. Two things that I can think of that I grow that I really like for a protein source is going to be beans. Cowpeas are really easy to grow during the summer, and they have a good protein amount, but I also like to grow Puerto Rican black beans. I grow kidney beans, and I grow small red beans, and I grow fava beans. I grow a lot of beans, lima beans. The second plant that I like to grow for protein is moringa. Moringa actually has quite a bit of protein, and it's just a green leafy plant that grows like a weed here, and you chop it down to the ground. Once it gets a little bit too big, you chop the entire tree down at the base and it will grow another one. And it just grows so easy, and it is known as like a miracle tree because the amount of vitamins, including protein, that is found in this tree, it is used to feed countries that have food insecurity as a way to increase their vitamin counts. All right, now let's talk about harvesting, because I've had a few questions on harvesting. Desiree asked, how long does it take for a baby fruit to get to harvest? And she specifically wanted to know, like, not when it flowers, but when you have a tiny fruit and it makes it to harvest. This is really difficult to answer because every plant is different, and I'll explain why. So a cucumber flower will create a fruit at the same time that it flowers. It's an immature piece of fruit that sits at the base of the flower. If that flower gets pollinated, that little piece of fruit grows. If not, it dies. From the time it gets pollinated to the time a cucumber is ready, usually about 1 week. It's so fast. Like, they grow and they are harvestable after about a week. They may not be to their full size. You can maybe wait 2 weeks for it to get to its full size, but you can pretty much harvest it at any time. Something like a tomato, on the other hand, especially like a slicing or a beefsteak tomato, you can have a flower, and then within about a week you will see that flower pollinated and it will become a tiny piece of fruit. Then it can take 30 to 45 days, so a month to a month and a half, for that tomato to be ripe and ready to pick. Sometimes longer. I have seen, like, if you're a little bit north of me and you're having a cooler summer, it could take like 60 days for that piece of fruit to ripen. It really depends on the vegetable as well as the variety, right? So when you think of squash, I grew Waltham's butternut squash, and they're like, or a honey nut squash, and they're like a little squash. You know, from the time the fruit forms to it being fully ripe for a winter squash, it takes probably about 60 days. But I also grew Trombicino, which took probably 3 months for that to fully ripen, and I don't even think it was fully ripe when I took it off. You can see that there's a lot of variability between plants, and there's a lot even more variability between the different varieties. So it's really hard to tell, and it's hard to tell from the seed packet too. So you really need to look for signs that piece of fruit is ripe. So that kind of leads into Janice's questions. When's the best time to harvest? So there's a lot of plants that tell you it's ready to harvest based on its color. Winter squash turns orange or a different color, yellow or something. Tomatoes turn red. Peppers turn red. You know, they will change colors, and that kind of tells you that it's ripe. But then you have something like a cucumber that if it changes colors, because it'll turn from a green to a yellow, it is overripe at that yellow stage. You want to catch it before it gets to overripe, so you're looking for something different. Normally cucumbers have like little spikes on them, and what I do is, as I start to see it growing to the point that those little spikes are falling off, that's when I'll harvest it. A zucchini, for example. If you wait for it to get super big, it's not the tastiest thing. It's really seedy and all that stuff. So you harvest it when it's young, and it's based on size. So maybe you want something that is that long. I will say this, my one trick. I have almost never had an issue with picking something too early, but I have had an issue with picking stuff late. It doesn't taste as good, but picking stuff early, young fruit, tastes better to me. It has a better texture and it has a better taste. It's debatable with some things like tomatoes and peppers because when they change color, they actually get a different flavor. But I have never, I know this is controversial, but I have never noticed the difference between letting a tomato ripen on my counter and letting a tomato ripen on my plant. I don't notice a difference in the taste. Now, there are two plants that I would say you can harvest too early. And these are the two most common plants that I have experienced that you can harvest too early. And that's corn and watermelons, or any kind of melons, really. Corn, if you harvest it too early, it tastes starchy. There's a brief period of time when that corn moves from starch to sugar. And there's very unique things that you're looking for when it comes to corn being ready. You almost want it to look like the plant is starting to die off. That the silks are, kind of turning dark brown and it's starting to like die. That's really what it looks like. Watermelons, or melons in general, is another one where it's really hard. You can pick it too soon. You can have all the things that people say to look for. You can have the yellow spot on the bottom, you can have the dried trendle, you can have the knocking on it and it sounds hollow, you can have the heavy weight, and you pick it and it's still too early. So I have not perfected picking watermelons. Now, cantaloupes are a little bit easier because a cantaloupe is ready that when you kind of pick it up and give it a little tension away from the vine, it will snap off. That's when you know that a cantaloupe is ready. It will snap off. Watermelons don't necessarily do that. So that now leads into my other question, which is, when do you harvest root crops? Because those are a little bit different. Root crops, they were very elusive to me in the beginning. So potatoes, garlic, carrots, how do you know when to harvest them? Because they're underground, you can't see them. And this was like such a problem for me when I first started growing these. And then I realized that you can dig down into the soil beside them and look at their size. And I don't mean just like a couple fingers. I mean like full blown dig out soil and look at them underneath. Disturbing the soil beside them, I have never had a problem with it killing the plant. If I looked at my carrots and I realized that the carrots are still growing, they're not quite as big as I like, I just push that soil back on it. I do the same thing with my garlic to know when my garlic is ready, because garlic will have bulbed underneath, but you really want to wait to see the clove distinction. You want to see that there's different cloves on there, not just that there's a bulb. So I dig down beside one. If the plant's right here, I dig right here and I look at it from the side underneath. I kind of brush it away like an archaeologist over here, brush it away to check what it looks like. And then if it's not ready, I just push that soil back on. I know you might be nervous because you're thinking I'm going to kill my plant. I've never had that happen. You're good. Dig down. Check it out. All right, I think that answered all of our questions for vegetables and harvesting. Make sure to stay tuned next week. Hit that subscribe button so you get notified for the next set of questions. They're going to be all around fruit harvest and preserving or storing your harvest. Happy gardening, guys.